Hey friends, Michael Patton here, and we are doing another edition from Credo House of Theology Tok. Theology Tok is the time where I come in and evaluate some video, trending video on theology that is out there on the internet sometimes, oftentimes on TikTok. Don't forget to subscribe. You hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell so that you can get a message every time we put something out. Let's go ahead and start the video.
As an atheist, I don't subscribe to this claim. In my opinion, it would be just as arrogant for me to claim that there is no God than it would be for me to claim that there is one. We have no idea. All of us are agnostic in that sense. Some just aren't willing to admit it. I think the most honest and rational thing that any...
Let me pause just for a second here. It says there is no God here in the comment, and that's what she's dealing with. Seems like she's kind of trying to approach this as a kind of a humble atheist. None of us have any idea. I mean, I don't subscribe to the claim there is no God because I'm not really sure. And then she projects this beyond that upon everybody and says, none of us have any idea.
Any of us can say is, I don't know if there's a God. And just leave it at that. We do not have to make definitive claims for things that we don't know. We're allowed to just say, I don't know. And there's going to be a lot of people out there that say, no, I know there is a God. Good for them, but it is not falsifiable, it cannot be proven, and the same goes for this claim that there is no God.
I see what she's doing. She's trying to equate the two. That there is no God, and the relative agnosticism she's going to have towards that, and then she's projecting it upon us and saying, those who say there is a God have to do the same thing, because nobody can really say for sure. And therefore, we've got these black and white categories. You got, I don't know, or it's not true, or it absolutely is true, or right in the middle, I'm agnostic. I don't know whether it's true. Kind of think of a negative 10 to 0 to positive 10. Negative 10 says, I know there's not a God. 0 says, I have no idea. And then 10 says, I'm totally sure. And this is very common. I mean, we act as if certainty or truth in our daily lives is some type of absolute black and white thing. It's not. You're not either absolutely sure, absolutely unsure, or absolutely against it. There's all kinds of variations in between, and those variations are determined by many, many factors depending upon the subject. Some subjects lead you to a point where you can be more sure. Some subjects lead you to a point where you can be less sure, and you have to be agnostic about. So, like take for instance, whenever we're talking about, is there a God? Well, if I was to say, yes, I believe there is a God, or I was talking to somebody, I say, there is a God. Does that mean that I am claiming absolute certainty, some type of mathematical certainty, like 2 plus 2 equals 4, and there is a God? No, not at all. There are some things that are more clear that I affirm than others. As a matter of fact, think of it this way. If you're talking on a scale of 1 to 10, how sure am I that there is a God? That particular one would probably be way up there, 8 or 9, probably right at a 9. If you give me this, and I like doing this, say God himself. How sure is God himself that he exists? If he exists. Well, he's very sure. He's more sure than you or I could ever be. So he's the only 10, or if you wanted to put it this way, he's an 11. And none of us can get to an 11, the type of godlike assurance. The highest we can get maybe is to 10. But we always grow in our faith. And our faith is not perfect. Therefore, some of you are well along the journey. You're at a 1, 2, 3, all the way up to a 9 or 10. And that doesn't mean you're claiming godlike certainty or absolute certainty. It just means you have conviction that can be defended. Now, she said at one point that it's not falsifiable. Either one's not. That's not true. Falsifiability. There are things that aren't falsifiable. Just like if I told you I had a dream about God and he came to me last night in a dream and it was him and this is what he told me. You can't falsify that. That's based upon my subjective opinion. There's nothing you can do about it. So it either did happen or it didn't happen. And you have to go upon my character. Once you go out into my character, then you begin to have some type of basis for believing me or not. That gives a rational stand for the basis. If I'm a very honest person, I never make stuff up, and you've known me for years and years, and I say this, you might have more of a tendency to believe me. Therefore, you move up on the scale. There are some things that aren't falsifiable at all, and there's some things that are falsifiable. And falsifiability, mind you, is a very good thing whenever it comes to truth. You want it to be able to be falsifiable. If I was to say, if somebody came to me and said, like she just did, you can't falsify, it's not falsifiable, the existence of God. I say, sure it is. I mean, what you're saying is there's no evidence that I can point to that is absolute evidence that has to go one way or another, or that points in one direction or another, or that I can make good arguments about. I would say existence itself is part of this evidence. Therefore, if God exists, these things you would expect to happen. Something to be in existence, some type of self-awareness. And just the very fact that I am self-aware shows that God must exist. Therefore, it's falsifiable based upon the lack of evidence. If you had lack of evidence, then you have less of a reason to believe. I like it with the resurrection or any type of history of the Bible. The Bible is the most falsifiable book, religious book in history, hands down. You cannot, I mean, there's no way you could make an argument against this that I think would be strong, because listen to this. Whenever God made himself known, he makes himself known in history, and he does so by telling events of the past, falsifiable. He does so by giving days or dates and characters involved, falsifiable. You see, once you start saying, here's all the parameters, and those parameters are testable. If God said Jesus came and was born in Bethlehem, I can go check and see if there was a Bethlehem. It says he was in Israel in the first century. I can go and check and see if there was a guy named Jesus in Israel in the first century, a miracle worker of sorts. There's all kinds of ways to falsify the Christian message. But this is a good point to bring up this, and it's very, I think, important whenever you look at all the other religions of the world, and as I said before, they're not falsifiable. Whenever you have Muhammad, he goes into a cave by himself and claims to have had an experience where he was taken by the horse up to heaven, and he was able to write the Quran, and he did this all by himself. I can't falsify that at all, so that's just there. You either take a leap of faith or you don't. But whenever Christ, or just put another one, the entire Hindu religion is based upon ideas. Ideas aren't falsifiable. Ideas that you have that give you an emotional connection to something are not falsifiable. Whenever you talk about, same thing about Buddhism, whenever you talk about Mormonism and Joseph Smith, what happened to him? Not falsifiable because it all happened to him by himself. No way to test it. But Christianity is the most testable, most falsifiable religion in the world, and that is, again, the opposite of what she said. It's not falsifiable. We have so much falsifiability in our religion, and it passed every single test. Christianity does. It's encouraging. So I don't like that she tried to make you're either an absolute believer, which none of us are, where we can all grow in our faith, or you're an absolute agnostic. Those are false categories. It's a false either or. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Appreciate her for making the video and doing what she could to express herself. We will continue this on. Don't forget, listen, you can go to my Patreon page. I've got a Patreon page now where you can support me. This is the way I'm trying to get supported. Now, listen, before you look at it. And there's a link. I'll try to provide a link. I think it'll be right here. I don't know where it's going to be. But at least I'll put it down in the comments. But I'm trying to get enough memberships, not only to support myself and no longer have to, do the fundraising, begging for money. I can't stand that. It drives me insane. It's driven me insane for 20 years, but I'm trying something new. Let's see if this works. And it has so far. We've got a lot of people that are subscribing to this. All kinds of gifts, all kinds of prizes that will be given out for the different tiers. But if I get enough people that sign up for this, let's say I got 2,000 at the $9, the expositor's patron, I would be able to start a new Credo House. Remember the Credo House? Some of you do. Start a Credo House where it's a Credo House coffee shop of theology, with the place where we shot all our live events and did all our video making. Now I just do it out of my house. But you just look through the different tiers. If you will, I would be very honored if you would support me and my family as I continue to teach theology and present myself kind of as a missionary of theology. See you next time.